everyone. I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about video art and sort of where it fits in the contemporary artistic landscape. And also, we're going to look at some contemporary video art and a few sort of historically important kind of landmarks in video art. So this lecture is going to be a little bit shorter than most of the other ones in this course because there are links to videos that I would actually like you to watch. So I'm just going to say a little something about each of the videos to kind of give you some context and let you know why I am asking you to watch them. So let's get started. You may notice my screen is set up a little bit differently than usual. For some reason, my screen recorder is not allowing me to present in presenter mode, so I think we'll all live. So the first thing that I want to kind of talk about is where video art really fits in the broader scheme of things. And you'll see that in this kind of flow chart that I made, these are all probably, things that people may consider video art, although up here are really the sort of like narrow frame of video art in the art world. And a lot of these other sort of topics in the aqua are really, I would call them related fields. So those related fields, here we see this kind of broad umbrella of new media art, which includes video. It includes really anything made with technology. It includes stuff on the internet. It's a very broad category of art. And so within that category of new media art, we see that there is certainly a sort of subcategory called video art. There's also what I would call a very closely related field of digital art. And there's experimental art and film. And then, of course, let us not forget the entertainment industry, which is probably the major supplier of video, in our lives. So within video art, there is, certainly like a single channel video. So a single channel video basically just means a video that is playing inside one sort of screen or one sort of thing kind of happening, one video feed or one video capture, or however you want to think of it. But it's basically one video at a time. Compared to, let's say, multi-channel video, which tends to be in the other category of video installation. And so single channel video is the kind of thing that you would see on a movie screen in a theater. Remember those? Where you walk in and there's just a kind of a single screen and you watch it, right? It's very simple. Video installation is another category, and we're going to look at a couple of pieces that I would consider to be video installation. And put simply, I guess, a video installation is video that is either kind of engineered or built into a large object, or sort of integrated into the physical space of the museum. So you may see it working, within these kind of large constructions that have multiple screens attached to them, or projection that maybe projects onto some interesting material like sand or cloth, or even really like a curtain, or projecting onto people's bodies. Those are all examples of video installation. And a lot of the video that we see in the museum and gallery world right now is in that category of video installation. But that's not to say that there isn't still a kind of big culture of single channel video. And so single channel video is kind of great in some ways because it's very portable. Anybody that has a screen or a computer or, a media player can play your video, and your art can exist almost anywhere. A lot of times now for screenings, people will just provide a Vimeo link or a YouTube link. And then, their work gets screened at maybe an event, anywhere around the world. So one of the great things about video as a working artist is that video can be really, really freeing because of its portability. It can be transported easily. It's not like printmaking or painting where you have to actually mail something. If you're mailing a video now, well, first of all, I don't think you would mail a video. I think you would just, again, give them a YouTube link. But certainly, if you're working on something that's really high definition, I do have friends who even recently have just mailed a little hard drive, out to a gallery, and then the gallery uses the hard drive to play the video. So digital media and kind of online video has kind of changed the landscape of video to a certain extent. There's certainly a kind of quality lag in online video. That if you see a video presentation at a museum, it may be basically like, kind of quote unquote Hollywood quality in terms of the production quality. And so, you may not have that in an online streaming format. But as you'll see, as we watch some of these videos, a lot of artists don't actually care that much about, how many pixels are in their video. So for some people, it's necessary to have that really high quality image. And for other people, it's not really very necessary at all. So I do want to say a little bit about I do want to say a little bit about digital art. And there are instances of video within digital art. So I think that usually there's, I guess you could probably say there's a reasonable amount of overlap. And there's a lot of times when it's kind of hard to maybe categorize something as one or the other. I'm not going to be asking you to categorize things for the final exam because it's really difficult, so don't worry about that. I have 3 categories here in digital art that tend to overlap with video art. One would be interactive video, and those are just sort of, video projections or video screens that respond to viewer input. And so we may sort of gesture towards some of that when we start coding. But you may have seen them out in public spaces, these like large video walls that kind of respond to your presence in the space by making the images on the video kind of flock towards you or something like that. That's considered interactive video, and it's also considered video installation. So again, there's a little bit of overlap there. There's also sort of video that's just super techy, and that usually gets categorized under digital art and not video art for some strange reason. And so that would include, video that's maybe like hand programmed or has kind of large and complex number of digital effects that might, sort of get categorized in the sort of, generative video sort of category. And then, of course, there's also experimental animation, which is usually made with digital tools nowadays, although there's certainly plenty of animation that is not made with digital tools. So, these are all of these things, though, in this category definitely kind of exist within the art world. And then when we move over here, we start to see this kind of gray zone. And I would say that on a spectrum, maybe you have the art world here, you have the entertainment industry here. What's in the middle of that would be the experimental film scene or the art film scene. And the reason why it's a little bit more accessible, it's a little bit more commercial, But it's not kind of conforming to the commercial demands of the entertainment industry. So the experimental art film scene is a whole other thing. It's usually experimental animation and experimental video. And it's usually shown in small independent cinemas and also festivals. And then, of course, we all know all about the entertainment industry. And it is worth kind of noting that pretty much all of these, techniques that you would use here in the art world are also applicable to the entertainment industry. If you're, thinking about looking at, employment options or anything like that. So I'm going to start with kind of a little bit of a historical jump. Move myself over here. I'm going to start with Andy Warhol. And so Andy Warhol is one of those artists that most people have probably heard of. He was definitely kind of the it boy of the 1960s and 70s. And even into the 80s, he was still very, very well known and very popular. I'm going to ask you to watch a few of these screen tests, and I think you could probably say that, if you're not living in 1965 and, in Andy Warhol's factory and possibly, doing some sort of mind-altering chemicals, that in the absence of that environment, they may look a little boring. And I think that the reason for that might be that they're just quite minimal. They're basically sort of looks into a glimpse into people's soul. And so the one that you'll be looking at is this guy, Dennis Hopper, who was a really famous actor in this sort of last, 50 years. But Andy Warhol's whole sort of thing, you can see that this is an ongoing body of work. So it happened from 1964 to 1966. And he has kind of this is really just a who's who of, famous celebrities of the 1960s. And so he did dozens and dozens of these screen tests. And none of these people, by the way, are professional actors. So, the idea was that he was sort of elevating these people who were basically just his friends to the status of a Hollywood icon or the glamour of Hollywood. So, they're kind of interesting. The main reason that I'm showing you this is because there's a historical kind of counterpoint. And this is something that happens a lot in art where artists are recycling other people's ideas. I mean, we see that in the Everything is a Remix video. There's a British artist named Willis Thompson who created the really kind of I would call it a response to Andy Warhol's screen tests. And he did the screen tests as a sort of series with several people. But they were all people of color, and they were all people who had really recently touched or encountered some sort of trauma. And so in this image, you can see just a still from one of his videos. This is Diamond Reynolds, and Diamond Reynolds was this. Happened a couple of years ago. And so it was kind of well into the Black Lives Matter movement. She was in the car with her boyfriend, Philando Castile, and he was shot by a police person who killed him. And their 2-year-old daughter was in the car with them. And Diamond Reynolds had the whole event on Facebook. She put it on Facebook Live. And so Luke Willis Thompson, I think, really wanted to speak about the representation of people who he felt were contemporary heroes. And so that's what this video is about. So it's a kind of fascinating video for other reasons as well. Willis Thompson is he's a British artist, and I think he is mixed race. And he had recently won pretty much the most important one of the most important art prizes in the world, called the Turner Prize, which is a prize given out by the Tate in London, which is probably one of 5, art spaces worldwide that's considered, the best. And so in the video, Willis Thompson kind of talks about, his own struggle with his identity and how he kind of came to find his voice in the world through talking about some of these social issues. So there is that video, and you should watch it. Click on the link. Okay. So we also have a video here by that covers the life of Jonas Mikas. And it's a really cute video. I mean, I think he's just kind of sweet. But, you also realize, by the way, that he's really old. And in fact, he's no longer with us. I think he passed away just a couple years ago. But he lived an incredibly long life. He lived into his 90s. And he started making work when he was like 20. So he definitely was kind of pointed to, he was actually friends with Andy Warhol, and he was pointed to by several people as kind of one of the inventors, or one of the sort of first people to ever do experimental film or video art. He has a really interesting way of talking about how his life relates to his work that I think, despite, being a really old, guy from a different country, he can speak to people in a way that is incredibly relatable to our own lives. And I think particularly if you think about the way that Jonas Mikas is constructing the document of his life, to me, it really kind of speaks to the situation we're in now with Facebook and Instagram, where we have this kind of data backlog of pretty much our entire lives. And so it's kind of interesting to think about, what to do with all that material, right? I mean, we generate a ton of images. At least I do. I'm sure most people do. And so I think, despite it being very much like situated within the tradition of avant-garde cinema, I think it really has just a relationship to like how we're living today. And quite frankly, I think it's also a little bit inspiring to talk about how you can just make everyday life, like the world that you're living in, which seems boring and kind of meh to all of us, I'm sure. And you can make it something really special. Okay, so next, I'm going to ask you to watch Namjoon Pak. And so Namjoon Pak is this amazing video installation artist. I guess I should say was this amazing video installation artist. He is also sadly no longer with us. Namjoon Pak's heyday was kind of in the, I'll say the 70s, late 60s to the 90s. But he really, I think, can probably be credited as being one of the first practitioners of video installation art. So it wasn't enough for him to just kind of make a video and then play it on a screen. He started making these massive constructions with, lots of screens, putting screens in interesting situations. He had one piece where he mounted a screen into a violin while somebody was, or like a stand-up, like a cello, while somebody was playing it. And he's just a total legend. I also think it's for sure worth noting that Namjoon Pak is one of the very first Asian, East Asian artists who comes into the sort of art scene in, you know, well, he was in France, he was also in England and in the United States. And so at the time that he was working, there were really very, very few East Asian artists. And as far as I know, at the time he was working, he was probably the only Korean artist, you know, out in the sort of art world at the time. So this is a great video, and I'm sure that you will like it. So the next video I wanted to show you is Tony Oursler. And this video is also an example of video installation. So you can see here, there's a projection at work. And what he does in this piece, it's a really fascinating piece. He takes the these projections and he projects them onto smoke in a kind of outdoor public place. And so there are these people who are kind of talking about this weird stuff that you can't quite hear or can't quite understand, and it's kind of about myth, and it's kind of about a lot of things, but it's mostly about a really like kind of weird shifting kind of not scary but just ominous kind of atmosphere. And so Tony Oursler is a contemporary artist who is somebody who's really interested in like the psychological power of his work. So he really wants to evoke feelings out of people. And you'll hear more about that when you see the video. So another video that I picked out for you is this video by Harun Faraoki. And it's called Serious Games, and it basically is an art piece that talks about the experience of people dealing with what it's like to be in warfare situations remotely. And so he's really, I think, looking at this time, you know, soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan, and interviewing them, but also kind of creating, you know, these virtual environments. And so he's just a fascinating artist. He's kind of one of these artists who's a little bit out of the norm in the way that he works and just the way that he kind of thinks about the world. He's I would call his work very cerebral. So I think for those of you, you know, that are looking for beauty, you're maybe not going to find it here, but if you're looking for something to think about, you might find something here. So speaking of beauty, this guy, Bill Viola, is very, very interested in beauty. He's into kind of the beauty of movement of the human body, and also the beauty of natural elements. And so in this piece, this is also a video installation. You can see it's a 4-channel video installation. He's basically kind of creating these moments out of a sort of, I guess, some sort of religious parable, because he's showing the installation is for a cathedral, which is really common in Europe for artists to install their work in cathedrals. And so he wanted to kind of, you know, acknowledge the spiritual tradition that the cathedral was sort of operating in. I actually assume that it's a Catholic cathedral. I could be wrong. And he himself is not actually Catholic. He's a Buddhist. So he tried to interpret, I think, the parable in the most kind of abstract way possible, so that he could, you know, be respectful of the space. And I think the cool thing about this video is that it actually shows how he does some of his filming. And I guess, you know, I think that some of his videos really show off the power of backwards video and also the power of slow-mo. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Lastly, I wanted to leave you with something a little funky. So here is Rashad Newsom, who's probably one of my very favorite contemporary artists working right now. He's working in New York, and he is really, really interested in, I guess, primarily in exploring issues of identity, but his sort of current work deals with a lot of the tradition of voguing and being a Vogue dancer. And so it's just very, it's very danceable, and it's just kind of irresistible. So it's in, I think, partially making fun of contemporary hip-hop culture a little bit, but also being just totally awesome. So he's kind of like on this like knife edge. And then of course, you know, the voguing is just amazing. So, I'm going to leave you with this, and I hope you really enjoy these videos. I mean, I think it's a decent, kind of sampler of, the diversity of what's happening out there in video art today. I guess I will mention one thing in parting, and that is that the line between video art and GIF art is very, very small, very small. So, so I would certainly, you know, think about that. And as you work on your video, don't forget to, you know, have fun. And when you're thinking about, oh, I have to do something creative, what do I do? I guess my generic advice for you is to just do something, do anything, and just see how it goes, because you can always hit undo. Okay, have a great one. Bye.